happened overnight.
You think it happened last night?
No, I'm not
What?
think I know.
Oh, you know.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
because
just.
I was here.
Yeah.
I walk here every day.
Oh, we came here last night and had a look, but we couldn't get into the
Well, because
grounds.
I walk my dog here
Yeah.
yesterday morning, and it was here.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
How's that for timing? Oh, if you can see it.
Oh, it's on. Sorry.
Okay, you're recording.
Yeah, you are.
We're in St Pancras, as we've been making videos as we travel, because rather than risking losing it, just like talking about history, we've been making these videos and putting them on YouTube, and this one is going straight to Facebook because this is something special. We're in St Pancras, old St Pancras churchyard, and I'm going to flash a picture of the Hardy tree. That there is a tree that was referenced in 314 AD by the Romans, and in 1860 Thomas Hardy, the author, put all the headstones up against the tree because the train line just here was being extended and they didn't want to lose the headstone, so he was commissioned to put all the stones up against the tree, and the roots of the tree started growing into the headstones. And last night the tree fell down, and we arrived this morning. We were the first ones to find it, and we're doing a Google search thinking we know about this tree, we've come to see it, when did it fall down, how come we didn't know that it fell down? And then a couple of people turned up. One lady turned up, said she's been living in the area for 14 years, walks her blind and deaf dog through here every morning. We were patting him and she was weeping because she didn't know the tree had fallen down.
It was there yesterday.
She was here yesterday,
Yeah.
and the tree was up yesterday.
Yes.
We were here last night. We came to the front and had a look, but the yard was closed. I was more than happy to come in here under torch last night and have a look around, because there's a bit more to this yard than what we've just spoken about here. But the BBC are calling back shortly because I think it's newsworthy, so we contacted them. So it's a bit of an icon, a bit of a landmark, a bit of an institution, and it has this mythology attached to it where the tree, as it grew, sucked all the headstones to its base to reach up into the skies. And I don't subscribe to that mythology, but it just goes to show that the tree was a bit of an institution and fell over last night. And we can't believe that we came halfway across the world with this high on our list. We come here to discover this. Impeccable timing.
And sad timing.
It is. I'm not happy that it's fallen over, but if it's going to fall over and we're the first ones to find it, it makes our trip a little bit more memorable.
We all fall over.
It happens to the best of us. And so we don't know what's going to happen today. I'd imagine that some news station's going to come down here at some stage, but let's go and have a look at the tree. Now, as you walk around and have a look at the tree, I just want to explain that this church next to us, the old St Pancras Church, is believed to be the oldest Christian church in the United Kingdom, and it was established in 314 AD when the Romans were camping here. Just to give you an idea as to how old that is, in 312 AD, Emperor Constantine, the Roman emperor, had the battle at the Milvian Bridge, where he saw a shooting star, and after his brother-in-law explained to him that if you pray to the Christian God, he will help you win this battle. And as a result, the next day, Emperor Constantine woke up and said, that's it, I believe in the Christian God, and he made Roman Catholicism the official religion of the Roman Empire, which ultimately threw it a lifeline, because religion, polytheistic religion at least, was going fine, but monotheistic religions were dying out. Then in 323 AD, he called for the Council of Nicaea, which is what gave us the Nicene Creed. Nicaea is in northern Turkey, and that's when they decided on what would be canonical and what would be included in the Bible and what would not be included in the Bible. So that gives you an idea of exactly how old this tree and that church is. It really is 300 years after the death of Christ, and at a time when Christianity was ultimately thrown a lifeline. Had Emperor Constantine not had that success at the Milvian Bridge in Italy, then Christianity could have fallen by the wayside. And if it did, then the Prophet Muhammad, who crawled into a cave in Mount Hira during Ramadan in 610 AD and claimed that the Archangel Gabriel spoke to him not once, not twice, but thrice, and commanded him to write down his ultimate prophecy, may not have happened. We may never have had Islam had Emperor Constantine not saved Christianity. And when the Prophet Muhammad came out of the cave, he went to his wife Khadijah, explained what had happened in the cave, and she took Muhammad to see her cousin, a man named Uraq ibn Nufal, and he was familiar with the Judeo and Christian texts, and he told the Prophet Muhammad that he was the last messenger from God. That's the birth of Islam. But the other reason that we came to the old St Pancras Church was because as fans of literary history and the women's suffrage movement and what women went through in order to get some equality in society, over in the corner over here, you'll see off in the distance, we'll go and get a closer look at it. This was where Mary Wollstonecraft was once buried. Mary Wollstonecraft, she was an author, a feminist in a positive sense, a suffragette, and she wrote in response to Thomas Paine's Vindication of the Rights of Man, which was it was quite often referenced in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence and the American Constitution, and it also played a role in the French Revolution when the National Assembly were forming at the tennis court next to the Palace of Versailles. He wrote the Vindication of the Rights of Man, and in response, Mary Wollstonecraft wrote the Vindication of the Rights of Woman, and she was heavily criticised because she was a woman. At the time, she should not have been a published author writing pamphlets, and she received a lot of criticisms, especially from the Irish author Edmund Burke, who was opposed to the French Revolution, although Mary Wollstonecraft was in support of the French Revolution, although she hoped that it didn't happen with the bloodshed in which it did happen with. And Mary Wollstonecraft, a street in Sydney called Mary Wollstonecraft, one of our oldest street runs under the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Mary Wollstonecraft's daughter was Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Now Mary Wollstonecraft she passed away in 1797, just after Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley was born, who is Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. And she wrote Frankenstein when her and her husband Percy B. Shelley, along with Lord Byron, were in Geneva, and they were snowed in 1816 because Mount Tambora had exploded and sent a volcanic ash cloud across the northern hemisphere that resulted in a year that was called the Year Without a Summer. So while they were in lockdown, they had a competition who could write the best story, and Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, she wrote Frankenstein. Now when Mary used to live in London, just like Percy B. Shelley, and because Mary Wollstonecraft's partner Goodwin had a bookstore a couple of streets from here, so the whole family were writers. So Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley grew up under her father, raised by her father, and he was a publisher of books and an author in himself, and he was also buried here until 1851. And so when Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley came down here to visit her mother's grave, Percy B. Shelley turned up and she recognised him. They first met at the tomb over there, which is where Mary Wollstonecraft was buried. They began their courtship there and they were married within 2 years. Unfortunately, Percy B. Shelley died at 29 years old. He died at sea and his body was washed up. Lord Byron came back to the United Kingdom, got in a bit of trouble for his promiscuous ways, and Mary Shelley continued to write, and she had a number of children, had a healthy length of life, but Frankenstein was her best work, and it's a literary classic, and interestingly tied up with this area that we're at the moment. So let's go over and have a look at the memorial, the tomb, because in 1851 Goodwin and Mary Wollstonecraft were exhumed and reburied in an old churchyard down in Bournemouth. But let's go and have a look at the memorial to her. A few people gathering around the tree now, expressing their disappointment and their concern. So this is the memorial. This is the location where Mary Wollstonecraft was buried for 54 years. She died in 1797, just after giving birth to her daughter Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. So for 54 years she laid at rest here before her and her husband were interred and exhumed and reinterred at Bournemouth, in the old church down in Bournemouth. We didn't have the chance to go there on our trips, but it would have been great to have. But it's quite a nice little memorial.
It's quite large, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were here yesterday morning. We were here yesterday. Christmas Day. No, it was yesterday, wasn't it?